The word on the street is that Eddie Hearn is moving his operation over to the Zone. I think it's called the Zone. Dan's the Zone. I'll call it the Zone. I think this is bad for women's boxing. Let me explain why. The other night, I sat down to watch April Hunter on the Zone. She was listed as being part of the fight. So I sat down and watched it. I spent about €4-5 in smartphone credit watching it. No April Hunter. It turned out she wasn't on Zone. She was part of the undercard, and the undercard was being shown on Matchroom. But it was listed on the Zone. And I didn't know anything about the Matchroom thing, and I don't think most people knew. So, and I've been waiting for that fight for a long time. I've been interested in April Hunter now for a couple of years. She had 2 fights before this, but they weren't on television, and I can't find a copy of them anywhere. So I was really looking forward to this fight, and it was my night ruined and money wasted. Now, a couple of months ago, Hannah Rankin fought in Africa. I paid for that. I never saw it. I've forgotten what went wrong there, but something went wrong. And then there was some fights in Switzerland a few months ago. One of the fighters was Caitlin Whelan, Irish fighter, and I really wanted to see her. And that was on pay-per-view on Facebook. So I went over, found the fight on Facebook, clicked on the fight. Oh, I paid for the fight first. Then I was directed to the Facebook and the actual fight. I clicked on the fight, and of course I got a message to say I had to update my Facebook app. And of course, my Facebook app wouldn't update. So that was more money wasted, and I missed the fight that I really wanted to see. Now, to go back to the first fight I mentioned, April Hunter. Now, that fight has actually been put up, the video of that. But I can't even watch the video because it's restricted here in Ireland. Some copyright thing. So these are the problems you can have if you're watching women's sport or anything, but we're talking here about women's sport. This is the problems you have when you're watching online. It is problematic. It can be messy. There are all sorts of problems. There's software problems, compatibility problems, and I'm not impressed with the Zone. I'm not particularly impressed at all. But there are problems, and even if you're watching fights on Sky, if you're watching it on your phone or computer, there are problems. If you have to upgrade your app, maybe it won't upgrade the way it should, and there's lots of issues. So that's one reason why I think it's not a good idea to move women's boxing onto DAZN. But there's a second reason, and this is perhaps even more important. If you put women's boxing on DAZN, the only people who will watch it will be fans of women's boxing. The general public won't see it. They won't be aware of it. If you put it on television, well, first of all, anyone who's interested in sport is potentially going to see it. So you've got a big potential audience straight away. But even people who aren't interested in sport, they sit down, their favourite program isn't on, they flick through the channels. We've all done it. You end up watching maybe a sports program that you weren't really interested in. But if it's a good fight that night, if it's Chantal Cameron or Savannah Marshall or Natasha Jonas, the chances are be very good and exciting, and people can come to women's boxing accidentally, so to speak, like that. So, but if you're broadcasting only online, you miss all that audience. And there is a huge misconception about television or mainstream media. Mainstream media has a reach that no one online has. Online is very specialized. You've got these sites online that take in millions of views, but I don't even know what these sites are, and most people probably don't. Like, you've got this, what's this? I don't know. There's this new site. There was some fight on the other night. I don't know what it was, but I can't think of the name of it now. But television is like radio. People listen to radio. Even people who don't listen to radio, they listen to radio. It's on in the background, and you hear things. And if you have a blog or anything like that, you'll know yourself that if your blog gets mentioned on radio or on television, bang, suddenly everyone knows you. So television it has a wider reach. Television is much more likely to draw in people who maybe aren't interested in women's boxing, but who'll come across it. So there are two reasons why I think it could be bad now for women's boxing to switch over to dance. First reason, it can be messy, it can be unreliable, and there's all sorts of issues that can happen. The second reason is it's a very restricted audience. If you show women's fights on dance, then people who watch dance will see those fights. People who don't watch dance will be totally unaware. So I think it's a huge mistake, and just at this point, when women's boxing is really starting to move, more particularly British women's boxing, I think it's a huge risk. I don't think it's a good idea. Now, Sky Sport itself, Sky, that's problematic also. There are lots and lots of issues there. I don't watch any football. I don't watch any sport now because it's toxic. Just a couple of hours ago, I was in my kitchen there making a cup of coffee, and I flicked on the radio, just background listening. And Manchester United was on the radio. We were playing. And the first thing that happened, Black Lives Matter. I don't want to watch footballers kneeling down for Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a racist, violent, and essentially anarchist organization. And if you don't believe me, just go to their website. I often wonder, do any of these people, have they ever even glanced at the website? I mean, Black Lives Matter is a dangerous, nasty, violent, racist organization, which is disastrous for black people. I mean, black people living maybe in ghettos in America, the last thing you need is Black Lives Matter. But that's another story. But no, I think this move to dance is a huge mistake. You could be a big star in dance, and meanwhile, back in the real world, nobody would know you exist. Television, radio has a reach. In spite of the fact that less and less people watch television, it still has a reach. It has a more general reach, in much the same way as radio. So, I think a mistake. I think a serious mistake. Imagine Katie Taylor. Imagine Eddie Hearn had been only on dance when Katie Taylor turned professional. Nobody would have known about her. I'd have never heard of her. I'd have never seen her because I wouldn't have danced. or the Zone, whatever it's called. The careers of, Terry Harper, Cameron, you know, this Chantal Cameron probably wouldn't be fighting today uh, if it wasn't on Sky. Terry Harper the same. I mean, Chantal Cameron was on her way to Australia, and then she saw Katie Taylor on television. Terry Harper sort of retired, given up, lost interest, and then her coach guy, Steffi Ball, he saw Katie Taylor on television, and he phoned her up and said, that could be you. So I think it's a mistake. I think it's a serious mistake. I think it's a very serious mistake, and it could kill women's boxing. It really could kill women's boxing. So, what do you think? Let me know what your opinion is. Take care, be good, and we'll all be watching Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas. And I think Natasha is going to win. Take care.